Hello everyone and welcome back to Amazon Q4 Mastery. We have a very special person with us today. His name is Danny Carlson. Hi Danny.
Hey, pleasure to be on here with you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you. So Danny is an Amazon e-com expert specializing in PP management and listing optimization. He's founded the agency called Kenji ROI in 2016 and he has successfully grown it to more than 10 members. Right now, Danny is residing in Bali and he spends his time training in hands-to-hand acrobatics and riding sports motorcycles and speaking at business events. You're living a kind of a crazy life, aren't you, Danny?
Always a little bit crazy. So the latest thing I'm into is dirt biking. So I just bought myself a dirt bike, and actually tomorrow we're going up to rip up the side of the volcano and through the forest with a bunch of friends. So try to keep things interesting outside of working on my business.
That is super important. I'm super impressed as well. That's amazing. To begin with our session, let's start with something basic. How to optimize your Amazon product listing.
So optimizing your product listing, if you really break it down, the most important things. So at Kenji ROI, we have an optimization methodology that we teach this in our blog posts and just with all of our clients is what we do. We call it the triple optimized listing method. And the three pieces of that are one, keyword optimization, which if you're on here and you follow SellerApp at all, you probably know at least the basics of listing optimization and why you need to have the right keywords in your listing. Number two is persuasive desire optimization, which is essentially sales copywriting. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's not copywriting like intellectual property. That's copywriting as in writing any kind of word to sell products more effectively. So it's essentially the psychology of sales into the written word. And then the third piece of that, which is definitely the most important, is key info optimization. So identifying what the most key pieces of information that a customer needs to see in order to make a buying decision, and then placing that information very strategically in the images, in the copywriting, the title, the A+ content description, your video, really everything, and just making sure that the customer has that most important information they need to make that buying decision. So one quick example of what that would be is an iPhone, right? So if someone's looking for an iPhone case, they're never going to buy that case unless they're sure that it's going to fit their iPhone, because there's different sizes, there's different models, and there's all this stuff. So if you don't really put the size of the iPhone model in really prominent locations, you're just missing out on a huge opportunity where someone else they can't find that information. They can easily click to someone else's listing.
Yep, and I think more important thing is do not do keyword stuffing. I think we've discussed about it in previous sessions as well, because sellers get so excited when they find keywords and they just want to stuff it in the title, in the description, and they want to stuff it in their the product description as well. So what are your thoughts on that, on keyword stuffing?
Yeah, so keyword stuffing is really awesome if you got into Google SEO in about 1999 or like 2001 or something like that. But it doesn't work in today's landscape for two reasons. So the first reason is all of your customers on Amazon are not robots. And if they see a whole bunch of keyword stuffing, then they're just like, what the heck? Why is this guy repeating the same information 4 times in a row? And it turns people off. Right? It's the opposite of key info optimization, which I just mentioned is the most important thing about optimizing a listing. Those two things are not compatible. Number two is Amazon's algorithm is not stupid anymore. Maybe it was stupider 10 years ago, but it's certainly not stupid today. And the algorithm is not going to be tricked by you just stuffing all these keywords in there. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this listing is so relevant now, I'm going to show it to everyone. It's really not how it works. So yes, you do need the right keywords in your listing, but Amazon's algorithm is smart enough to expand upon that. And if you make your listing super relevant, then it's going to automatically have your listing indexed and rank for related keywords. It can actually go against you if you try to stuff too many keywords in there. You're probably going to have a lot of irrelevant keywords, and that can go against you because Amazon's algorithm is going to be confused a little bit. And one way that you can really see if this is happening is in your automatic Amazon ads campaigns. If you're starting to show up for a bunch of search terms that are really unrelated to your product, then Amazon's algorithm is confused. That's the best feedback you can get, that Amazon doesn't really know what your product is and is trying to show it to to customers for other random items or related items. So you really want to be relevant, and definitely do not do keyword stuffing.
Yep, that's really good advice. And you mentioned that selecting the right keyword is very important. So how does one select the right keyword?
So selecting the right keyword, keyword tools are a really great start. There's many good ones out there. SellerApp has a good one. But really you need a layer of human touch to it as well. So don't just take what the keyword tool spits out and just put all those keywords in your listing and be done with it. In my opinion, the top keywords, so we always choose the top 5 keywords to just like really overly optimize the listing for, just to maintain that hyper relevancy for those top 5 keywords. And in order for a keyword to qualify to be one of those top 5, they individually, that phrase just alone by itself needs to be able to describe what the product is. So an example, if the product is like a kitchen spatula, like a rubber kitchen spatula, for example, then kitchen accessories is too broad. So maybe kitchen accessories has really high search volume, but it only has high search volume because it's so broad. And if you search for it, there's going to be 15 different items that show up on the search results page. So that's not relevant enough to be one of your top 5. But let's say that we had kitchen spatula is probably your number 1 search phrase because it's still relevant enough, but it's not too long tail where it's not going to have very much search volume. If you did silicone kitchen spatula, maybe that would still have a high enough search volume, but now you're getting towards the end of the spectrum where it probably has a lot less search volume. And certainly if you went like BPA free kitchen spatula, that certainly would not have enough search volume, and that's getting a little bit too long tail. So you have to find the right balance between high enough search volume and specific enough relevancy. And no keyword tool is really going to be able to determine relevancy as well. Like, it needs that human touch to just determine, like, can this one phrase actually describe what my product is by itself with no additional words, and is it also have high enough search volume that's not too specific?
Yep, and I think that was a really good point when you mentioned relevancy as well. So people out there can also use Keyword Cloud to find out which word is repeating multiple times, and you can organize your keywords accordingly. Also, I wanted to talk about click-through rates. So does your product title have something to do with your click-through rates, and how can one improve that?
Absolutely. So the product title is probably the second most important factor that you have a lot of control over for click-through rate. So the main image is probably more important, but the product title is really important as well. And really this comes down to key info optimization. So what we're just talking about there, choosing your top 5 keywords, if you've done a really good job of identifying what your number 1 top keyword is, then you should be putting that at the very start of your title, because if it's your number 1 most searched for and most relevant keyword, there's a very good chance that whoever is seeing that just type that into the search bar and their brain is already primed to look for that exact thing. So you want to put that there so people know what your product is, and that describes your product by itself. And then you want to follow that first main search phrase with that most key information that we're talking about there. What is the most important information a customer needs to see to make that purchasing decision? And you want to place that right after the main search phrase in the title, because people who are scrolling search results page, they want to be sure that they're not wasting their time clicking on products that is not what they're looking for. So if you're looking for an iPhone 10 phone case, you're going to be specifically looking for ones that that are iPhone 10. And probably the best place for that information is in the title. Because on your main image, you can't really put that information without breaking the TOS. You could put like a iPhone 10 text on there or something. Maybe you get away with it for a while, but really the title is where you need to put that really key information that a customer needs to know know they're not wasting their time and click on your product. So that will increase your click-through rate if you really get that nailed down.
Yep. And now that we're talking about keywords, I think it's very important to mention how sellers can select specific keywords when it comes to this Q4 season. So I've noticed a lot of stocking friendly, stocking stuffing, Christmas, Halloween, and a lot of keywords related to the festivities. What, according to you, will make the best keywords for this holiday season?
The best keywords, I think it is a good idea to put more holiday related keywords and just change around the keywords a little bit for the holiday season. So a lot of this you can get those ideas from keyword tools like SellerApp. Just like look up holiday related search terms for your product and see if anything comes up from previous years, for example. But Another good strategy really is looking at Google. So Google has really good keyword tools for free that you can look at what people are actually searching around holiday season. And you can look at the historic data for that too. So you just got to think about buyer intent. So if people are buying gifts, what extra qualifiers are they adding in front of their words for your product, right? So maybe now instead of kitchen spatula, they're looking at, kitchen spatula for wife or something like that. Or, best gifts for women, best gifts for men and things like that. And you got to be a little bit careful between keyword stuffing. Like you don't just want to take, 10 brand new long tail phrases related to that and stuff them around everywhere in your listing, because it reads very poorly and it's going to be seen as keyword stuffing by Amazon's algorithm. Probably not going to work, but you do want to at least make sure that you have those important words like gift and any of those words that you've identified that are holiday related, and make sure that you're indexing for them, so that if people are searching for those, then you're more likely to actually be indexing and ranking for those specific long tail phrases.
Yep, and I liked how you mentioned the Amazon algorithm, because A9 algorithm is very complicated to understand. I mean, an Amazon expert sometimes gets confused, so I can only imagine what our sellers are going through. So how do you tackle the A9 algorithm? And I know that relevancy is a really big thing when it comes to A9 algorithm and playing around with A9 algorithm. But what, according to you, can increase the visibility for such related key terms?
So yeah, I mean, the algorithm is always changing and it's always a guess too. So like even the most advanced sellers on Amazon are only guessing. And at the end of the day, like people who are selling $100 million a year on Amazon have a tiny slice of the overall data. So the only people that really know are the people, the keys to the kingdom in Amazon, who have all this data just aggregated in front of them. And the crazy thing is, even a lot of those people don't really know how it works, because it's a machine learning algorithm that is just improving and changing itself continually. So they have some idea how it works, but literally there's probably no one on the entire earth that actually knows how it works, to be completely honest.
Wow.
So but we have good guesses, right? So we have lots of data that we can see, and we can make good decisions based off what to actually do there. So the real keys of optimizing for the A9 algorithm: first, you need that base of the solid keyword optimization. You have to have the right keywords that Amazon knows that your product is, knows what your product is, and your product is very optimized to be relevant for your main search phrases. And then you also want, your holiday phrases in there somewhere, indexing, maybe not like stuffed everywhere, but at least indexing maybe in your search terms fields in the back end, for example. And that's your base and your foundation. And then also, obviously, you need great images and other things that go with the listing. But once you have that, that's not enough just to be successful on Amazon. Now you have to feed the Amazon algorithm the sales. So some kind of product promotion, whether that's using rebates or ManyChat or Amazon ads, whatever it is. And it's going to depend on how competitive your product category is, how aggressive you have to be with that. But you have to feed those sales to get it going in the beginning. And really, like, those are the two main things, really. Like, there's obviously lots of other ranking factors, but that's like the 95.5 of it. So that, like, those 5% of the inputs are going to get 95 or more percent of the results. You can focus on all these other weird things like adding to cart and wish lists and all this fancy stuff. But at the end of the day, if you get a listing that's really well optimized and you run some sales volume through it to your targeted keywords, you actually don't need to do anything else. That's really the 80-20, or the more like the 95-5 of the situation.
Yep. And for those of you watching right now, if you want to learn how you can launch your product and relaunch your product on Amazon, if you want to learn more about my chat and how you can do Facebook advertising, we had a session with Chris Rawling yesterday, so go check that out. And if you have any more questions related to keyword optimization, do leave them in the comment section below and we will get right to it. Back to you, Danny. I have a very interesting question for you, because you have so many years of expertise under you. What are special characters, and should the sellers be using it?
Special characters. So, I mean, this could be referring to a few things. When it comes to in your backend, you don't want to use any special characters in your backend search terms fields, for example, but you can be using something called altcode symbols throughout your copywriting. So, for example, your bullet points in Amazon, they don't really allow for any kind of formatting. So without any kind of symbols or something to break it up, it looks very dull, and all the text kind of just squishes together into one big chunk of text. So one way to make each bullet point stand out a little bit more is to add an alt code symbol in front. So some common ones, you might see like a little lightning symbol or a checkmark symbol or something like that. You can just go to, I believe it's just alt-codes.net or something like that, and you just copy and paste each one of these symbols, and you just paste it just like you would any other text. So they're kind of like emojis, but like they were like emojis back before emojis were a thing. So they're even like a simpler version of your average emojis you're going to be sending to your friends on WhatsApp or whatever. You can just paste them wherever you want in your listing. I recommend not overdoing it. So really, the only place I recommend using them is at the start of each bullet point, just to make it look more like actual bullet points.
As Danny is advising, I've seen a lot of sellers, especially in their A+ content, go crazy with emoticons. Don't do that. It's not a text, it's a description. So make sure that you use only in the starting of a sentence as a bullet point, or you can use it in the end, but do not use it anywhere in the middle. All right. So Danny, I have another question for you. How do you select keywords on Amazon listing, and where do we use it exactly?
So the keyword selection process is, so our team will usually take keyword research results from many different tools and then kind of blend it all together, remove the duplicates and remove everything that's not relevant. So we have a good base from a lot of different keyword tools. And then someone will go through manually and go look through competitor listings, just kind of get an idea of what's going on there. They go through, pull out some customer language from reviews and things like that. So we do a lot of research on the front end. And then from there, it really takes someone manually just going through and looking for relevancy, because keyword tools are great at finding all the keywords and bringing it all together, but they're not so great at just like filtering for relevancy, unfortunately. Maybe someday one of these companies will figure out some machine learning algorithm or something, but for now it's going to have to be you. And just filter out the ones that are the most relevant, that have a high search volume. And once you have those, you have your list of them, and we make sure that so first we'll write out the entire listing with correct copywriting and key info optimization. Then we'll go back and we'll hyper optimize them for our top 5 search phrases that we identified from the process before, and just make sure that they're showing up in at least 3 sections of the listing. So those top 5 phrases, they should be in the title, bullets, description, or maybe they'll be in the description, the bullets, and the backend search terms, or the subject matter, as long as they're in at least 3 fields. And then what we like to do is any other keywords that we see are important that didn't already make it into the listing, we'll then go and put those into the backend search terms field. So we have 250 characters that we can fill out with just single keywords that didn't make it into the listing, that we also just want to gain relevancy for and be indexing for those phrases. And one thing a lot of people don't do is subject matter. So actually, Kenji ROI has, I think, the #1 ranked blog post about subject matter on Amazon. If you search for it on Google. And it's just essentially 5 fields of 50 characters in the back end that have proven to be very relevant places to put keywords. So we actually take the top most important keywords and then put them in exact phrase order in the subject matter fields. And we use those for exact match phrases that we want to really drive home the relevancy for. So that's the subject matter fields. And the other one I mentioned was search terms field in the back end, 250 characters just in one field. And then obviously the title is the most important place for the keywords, followed by the description and the bullet points. One thing to mention as well is that the A+ content EBC descriptions do actually index your keywords. I don't know if this changed at a certain point, but when it first came out, everyone was saying it doesn't index, so there's no point in putting it there. It's no longer true. We've actually tested this ourselves a number of times and have been able to index keywords that were not indexed on a listing previously, and then we did index them after putting them only in the A+ content somewhere. So you do have to pay attention to your keywords in the A+ content, but it's not necessarily, you should put more emphasis on the other fields than on the A+ content.
Yep, and for those of you watching, if you are struggling with backend keywords, SellerApp has a really good tool that you can check out. I will link it here, and do check it out. It will help you immensely. Back to you, Danny. Because Kenji ROI has product images as part of its features as well, I wanted to understand how important product images are, and if you can provide a quick checklist for sellers that they should be considering when they're putting their product pictures online.
Yeah, so product pictures are one of the most important things. I mean, so it's one of those things. It's not that it's more important than the listing copywriting. It's just one can't live without the other. You need the listing copywriting to show up for the right keywords, but then you need the photos to actually convert those customers into sales. And when it comes to conversion rate, nothing is more powerful than your main images at the top of the listing. And so one really interesting kind of tidbit that if you've been selling on Amazon for any period of time, you'll realize that a lot of customers don't read your bullet points or your description at all. They just are going to look at the pictures and they're going to buy your product. And you'll see this because customers are going to be sending you complaints or asking you questions about things that were featured very prominently, like in your title or in your top bullet point or in your description somewhere, and they just didn't see it. So you really have to really nail the key info optimization in your images and really make sure that customers should have all the information they need to make a purchasing decision about your product just by looking at the images. Don't rely on your bullet points. Don't rely on your description. And they should also be very beautiful images. So, I mean, it's more important to have key info optimization really nailed than to have super amazing, beautiful images. I would rather you guys have some images that are maybe use some stock photos or something like that than to have images that are amazing and they have this crazy models and professional photo shoot, but the key info optimization is not nailed. So that's definitely more important. But if you can do both, then you should clearly do both, right? So have the key info optimization nailed down, have really beautiful photos that show your product in a really beautiful way, which often does require a real model on location photo shoot. But it's perfectly acceptable if you have a good enough graphic designer to do some stock imagery in there and combine it together. Just make sure that you're working with someone who knows how to do that and actually make it look realistic, not like some really cheap slap together something from Alibaba or something.
Yeah, that is super important. And make sure that you have no text in the images. And if you do have text, make sure that they're just a single word or two words. Don't like fill up your images with text. Make sure your images does not have logos in it. That's very important as well. And if you're wondering, we have already made a lot of videos on how you can incorporate videos now, as Amazon has made that available for sellers. So making videos for your product is equally a good idea. And I know that Danny can back me up on it.
Yeah, and video is becoming a more and more important thing as Amazon has released it available to all sellers to have that video in one of your main image slots. It's going to become like, it just leveled the playing field a lot. So before it was like this thing that it could increase your conversion rate if you did have the brand registry, but it's going to slowly become almost a requirement to compete in a lot of categories, especially if you're in a competitive category. It's just going to become a requirement. If all your competitors have the video in the main image slot and they're just going to have a slightly higher conversion rate than you, then you're just not going to be able to compete at the same level as them. So think about it this way. If your conversion rate is even 1% less than all of your competitors, that's 1% less, 1% less resources you have to spend on reinvesting into new product launch. It's 1% less money you have to spend on a Facebook ads funnel. It's 1% less money, and that 1% compounds very quickly in the e-commerce space, right? So 1% in a month equals, doubling or tripling your business over the course of a year or two in that case.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, get your product videos ready ASAP. And if you want Kenji ROI's help, they will definitely help you out with your product images as well. So we had a very special question from one of our sellers because we have in the comment section, it was posted in a comment section. So what are platinum keyword space for premium sellers, and is it really helpful?
Yeah, so that's just one of these funny things that's been around since I really got into Amazon for almost 5 years ago now. It really, it's one of those things that's been in beta for so long. And there's not really many people who are going to be a platinum seller that can put in their platinum seller keywords. We've messed around with it a couple times with clients who have had access to it, and we haven't seen any amazing special results, but it's just something that's just maintained and been in there. Most sellers won't really be able to do anything with it. Until you hear something amazing about it, I wouldn't really worry about it. I would focus more on subject matter keywords, or if you don't have subject matter, some categories don't, intended use would be the place to put those keywords as well, or the back-end search term fields.
Yeah, so I think we are at the end of our session. If there's anything you would like to add on to the session, please go ahead.
I think we really covered the bases here. I just want to end with saying that one really common mistake that we see with clients who come to us at a later point is that they focus on listing optimization second. It's always shinier and more interesting to go focus on some marketing tactic because that's what brings in the sales in the front door, right? It's the unsexy thing to focus on. How do I increase my conversion rate by 1% in the next couple months? But if you really do the math, then if you increase that conversion rate by 1% and you actually calculate how much more revenue that equates to over the course of 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, it makes absolutely no sense to be spending all this money and time and energy on running a new Facebook ads funnel or just like going and doing the fancy new marketing tactic when you don't have that base conversion rate optimization figured out. You're basically just throwing a percentage of your money in the toilet if you're just running it to a listing with bad photos or bad listing optimization. So build your foundation out first with listing optimization, and then everything else you do, like literally everything else you do on Amazon, is going to perform better.
Yeah, super good advice, Danny. This is the end of our session. I hope you found this session helpful. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining us. This was really informative, and I do agree with you that SEO optimization is necessary for sellers out there. And if you're wondering how you can brand your product and how you can make your A+ content better, we had a session with Emma Sharma-Tamir, who is a brand specialist. The video will be linked here. Go check that out. Thank you so much, Danny. This was a great session. So do not forget to like this video, do not forget to subscribe this video, and I will see you in the next session tomorrow. Do sign up with SellerApp for a free trial and you can see yourself how SellerApp helps Amazon sellers skyrocket their sales and scale up your Amazon journey. I will see you in tomorrow's session, and for now, bye-bye.